All right, good afternoon, everyone. Let's come to order and go on the record, please. I'm Charlotte Mitchell, Chair of the Utilities Commission. And with me this afternoon, by way of remote video connection, are Commissioners Tanola D. Brown-Bland. Please announce your presence.
Good afternoon.
Commissioner Daniel G. Clodfelter.
Yes, good afternoon.
And Commissioner Floyd B. McKissick, Jr.
Good afternoon, present.
And actually, I see that Commissioner Gray is on. I apologize, Commissioner Gray, I missed you.
Little late.
All right, better late than never.
Thank you.
I now call for hearing docket numbers W-1333 sub 0 and W-1130 sub 11 in the matter of application by Currituck Water and Sewer LLC and Sandler Utilities at Mill Run LLC for authority to transfer the Sandler Utilities at Mill Run wastewater system and public utility franchise in Currituck County, North Carolina, and for the approval of rates. Before we proceed further, and as is required by the State Government Ethics Act, I remind members of the Commission of our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and inquire at this time as to whether any member of the Commission has a known conflict with respect to the matters coming before us today. All right, the record will reflect that no conflicts have been identified, so we'll proceed. On May 19th, 2021, Currituck Water and Sewer LLC and Sandler Utilities at Mill Run LLC filed with the Commission an application by which Currituck and Sandler seek authority to transfer the wastewater utility system and the public utility franchise serving the Eagle Creek Subdivision, the Eagle Creek Golf Club and Country Club, and Moyock Middle School from Sandler to Currituck. The application also seeks the approval to charge certain rates. The present rates charged by Sandler were approved by the Commission in docket number W-1130 sub 9 and M-100 sub 138 and have been in effect since December 9th, 2016. Upon acquisition of the system, Currituck proposes to charge the current Commission-approved rates for Sandler. The intervention and participation of the public staff in this proceeding is recognized pursuant to North Carolina General Statute Section 62-15 sub D and Commission Rule R1-19 sub E. The public staff is the consumer advocate and represents in this proceeding the using and consuming public, that is, the utilities customers. On November 18th, 2021, the Commission issued an order scheduling hearings, establishing discovery guidelines, and requiring customer public notice. The order scheduled 2 public witness hearings to be held remotely by way of WebEx on this date, as well as an expert witness hearing to begin on April 5th, 2022. Between October 12th, 2021 and January 31st, 2022, various statements of consumer position have been filed in this docket. The purpose of today's hearing is to hear from Sandler's customers regarding their concerns with the pending requests. Each public witness will be given the opportunity to testify under oath to the Commission should he or she wish to do so. Before we move on, I'd like to discuss the procedures that we're going to follow for this hearing. First, public witnesses will be appearing by audio connection only. Commissioners and counsel for the parties will be appearing by video and audio connection. Any public witnesses that wish to view a live video of the proceeding may access it on their computers by way of YouTube, which is linked from the Commission's homepage. However, be sure to mute your computers when you're called to testify to avoid feedback and interfering with our court reporter's ability to transcribe the proceeding. Public witnesses will be called on to testify in the order that they have called in. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted by our WebEx administrator, and you'll hear 2 beeps on your phone line, indicating that you have been unmuted. At that time, I'll ask you to state your name, and then I will deliver the affirmation. Once you've been affirmed, the attorney for the public staff will ask you a series of questions, and then you'll have your opportunity to testify. To ensure that this hearing runs as efficiently as possible, please pay close attention during the course of the hearing and be ready to respond as soon as you hear those 2 beeps. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I call upon counsel for the parties to announce their appearances for the record, beginning with the applicant.
My name is Edward Finley, Madam Chair, appealing on behalf of Currituck Water and Sewer Company.
Good afternoon, Mr. Finley.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Karen Kimmerite. I'm an attorney with Fox Rothschild in Raleigh, and I represent Sandler Utilities at Mill Run.
Good afternoon, Ms. Kimmerite. All right, public staff.
Good afternoon. I'm Gina Holt with Public Staff here on behalf of the using and consuming public.
Good afternoon, Ms. Holt. All right, it's my understanding that counsel for Sandler would like to provide a brief opening statement. So Mr. Finley, you may proceed.
Okay, I'm counsel for Currituck Water and Sewer, but I would like to make.
I'm sorry. For the record, you're right. Counsel for Currituck Water and Sewer. My apologies.
Thanks. This will be brief. Currituck Water and Sewer appreciates the opportunity today to hear from the Eagle Creek wastewater system consumers on the issue of the company's desire to obtain from the commission approval of its acquisition of the system from Sandler Utilities. CWS recognizes and acknowledges that customers are experiencing service disruptions and environmental issues, and that many are justifiably distressed and concerned. The environmental regulators in the state have placed the system on moratorium, and it is currently under a consent decree imposing some strict requirements on operations, maintenance, and communications. CWS is intimately familiar with the system, the moratorium, and the consent decree. The collection system has exceeded its useful life, and improvements are necessary. That opinion is not held by CWS alone. The environmental regulators certainly agree. The public staff is currently comprehensively investigating the situation there and can be anticipated to weigh in later in the proceeding. CWS recognizes that there is substantial debate within the community as to whether the current vacuum collection system should be replaced or instead should be rehabilitated. CWS recognizes that whatever must be done will result in some continued inconvenience and interruption. CWS has talked with the community and understands that there is a substantial difference of opinion among some as to what should be done. While a strong case can be made for replacing the vacuum system with a gravity system, CWS is willing to continue dialogue with consumers and regulators and to consider other options. And the company will have to file its testimony later in the week. And what has been done and will be done in that regard will be discussed in greater detail there. CWS understands that Sandler, the developer of Eagle Creek, desires to sell, and CWS desires to acquire and undertake the steps necessary to improve the system, both as to its operations today and in the future. That concludes the statement, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Finley. Ms. Holt, let me check in with you. Does the public staff wish to provide any opening remarks this afternoon?
No, we don't.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and begin the public hearing. Mr. McCoy, would you please unmute the first witness?
Hello.
All right, good afternoon. Would you please identify yourself?
Hello, my name is Rhonda Klussman.
All right, Ms. Klussman, let me have you affirm. Do you affirm that the testimony you give today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, Ms. Holt, you may take over, please, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Ms. Klussman. Could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Rhonda Klussman. It's Klussmann.
Thank you. And what is your address?
I am at 151 Eagleton Circle, Moyotte, North Carolina.
Are you a customer of Sandler Utilities?
Yes, I am.
Do you have a statement you'd like to make?
Yes, I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and Commissioners, for this opportunity to speak with you today. First, I would like to speak to you about the pre-filed neighborhood petitions that you were sent on January 21st. I hope the petitions are available to you at this time for your reference. Creation of the neighborhood petitions to represent the overall preferences of homeowners was the brainchild of my neighbor, Tanya Green. I assisted Ms. Green during development of the petition descriptions and obtaining homeowners' signatures. 2 other volunteers helped Ms. Green and me with petition signing. The 4 of us who supported this effort do not hold positions on the HOA board. The following details are provided regarding the petition effort. In November 2021, 2 petitions were created, one in support of gravity replacement and another supporting upgrade of the existing vacuum system. Per the guidance from Mr. Grantmeyer during a community meeting on October 18th, the petitions include conditions for consideration by the commission. Signatures were limited to homeowners only. Signatures from renters were not allowed. With 1 signature allowed per address, a homeowner signed only one of the petitions of his or her choice. In the case of multiple owners per address, a single collective signature was obtained. Beginning December 5th through January 20th, signatures were obtained via door-to-door solicitation, gatherings for community meetings, and at the Eagle Creek Golf Club during dinner hours. There are 423 homes in the Eagle Creek subdivision, and 247 signatures were obtained, representing 58% of the neighborhood. 13 homeowners, or 5% of the signatures obtained, supported gravity replacement, while 234 homeowners, or 95%, supported upgrading the existing vacuum system. I spoke to many homeowners while obtaining signatures, and whether homeowners preferred gravity replacement or vacuum upgrade, a commonality existed. They were frustrated with repeated outages and expressed their desire for reliable service. For the majority of homeowners who chose upgrade of the existing system, their reasons were based upon distrust in Mike Meyer's abilities. They don't believe he will limit disruption of other utilities such as electricity, internet, and water, nor will landscaping, hardscapes, and roads be properly restored. They don't trust him to provide us with service impacts and equipment easements. And lastly, they doubt he will provide timely and accurate progress updates and schedule changes. Many homeowners in favor of upgrading the existing system believe Mike Myers justifies installation of a gravity system by intentional understaffing of maintenance technicians, lack of timely and accurate system status communications to customers, and the inability to provide reliable sewer service. They also believe that Currituck Water and Sewer is motivated by the purchase of Eagle Creek at a discount only to profit greatly from the gravity system due to significant rate hikes. Some homeowners are in favor of upgrading the current system due to cost alone. The projected rates for vacuum upgrades are lower than the estimates provided for a gravity system. For homeowners who prefer gravity replacement, this option was chosen because they are not confident that upgrading the existing system will provide long-term reliable service. While going door to door obtaining homeowner signatures, I want to share one conversation in particular. It was a homeowner and mother who lived several houses up from me. She answered the door with a 2-month-old baby in her arms. The day she arrived home from the hospital last November with her infant, the sewer was down and water conservation was required. I cannot imagine the joy of a newborn interrupted by the helplessness of a sewer outage along with water conservation to avoid backups. This mother's memories of caring for her baby will be forever punctuated by the inability to cook, clean, bathe, and do laundry. Please consider Eagle Creek homeowners' preferences represented by these petitions as you finalize the transfer and system solution. Commissioners, do you have any questions for me regarding the petitions before I provide my personal statement?
All right, Ms. Klessman, thank you. During this proceeding, the commissioners are only taking testimony from witnesses and will not be asking any questions of the witnesses. So please proceed with your personal statement.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear what the intent of the petitions and what they were about. Okay, I will proceed. In August 2020, my husband, a retired Air Force veteran, and I relocated from California to be near my son, who was stationed at Norfolk, and my 4 grandchildren. We spent our life savings purchasing a home at Eagle Creek with the assumption we would get a return on our investment, given golf course accessibility and HOA enforcement of CC&Rs. Shortly after purchasing our home, the sewer issues started. I have not experienced any sewage backups into my home so far. However, I have encountered sewage overflows at my pit and candy cane at least 5 times. In those cases, I reported the overflows to David May at DEQ. The fact that my property values have been harmed by the raw sewage that flowed into yards and ditches keeps me awake at night. When I do sleep, I have nightmares that sewage is pouring from the toilet onto the floor of my home. For some residents of Eagle Creek, my nightmare is their reality. It's reasonable to expect the sewer service I pay for is provided with the same level of reliability as electricity, internet, and water. I should not have to check my email or a Facebook page for system status before starting my morning routine. And I shouldn't have to cringe each time I flush a toilet. I signed a petition to upgrade the vacuum system because it seems to be the solution of lower risk. I am greatly concerned with the dewatering that is required to install a gravity system. It is my understanding that dewatering the peat soil known to exist in this subdivision will cause the ground to be unstable. In turn, foundations and swimming pools could shift or sink. If the solution chosen for this community requires dewatering, I am requesting the Commission to require the system owner to carry liability insurance that covers property damages incurred as a result of ground instability for a period of 10 years. Additionally, I don't trust Mike Myers to install a gravity system without doing harm to my property or the common areas. I don't feel he is capable of minimizing utility interruptions given the outages that occurred during the connection of the Foss development to our treatment plant. Since assuming operation of Eagle Creek in September 2020, EnviroLink has failed to adequately respond to service issues and communicate system status in a timely manner until forced to do so by a court order issued last December. As owner, Sandler has failed to sufficiently fund necessary upgrades and repairs until criminal charges were imminent. In this century, in this state, the sewer issues in Eagle Creek should never have happened. Residents should have never endured the unhealthy living conditions caused by raw sewage backing up in homes and yards. The resulting contamination of soil and groundwater should not have occurred as well. To avoid future harm to California residents and the environment, I am requesting that the Commission modify regulations related to collection and wastewater treatment systems as follows. Both public and privately owned systems are held to the same standards. Establish minimum maintenance requirements and schedules. Develop service reliability thresholds and enforce them. Improve oversight with annual inspections and samplings. Ensure approved rate increases related to upgrades are completed in a timely manner. Implement a credit policy to minimize the risk of defaults and bankruptcies by owners and operators. Greatly increase penalty amounts as a punitive measure to deter violations. Penalties collected should fund repairs and a cleanup to customers' properties. Penalties should also be distributed to customers as a refund for service disruptions. In closing, please ensure that Eagle Creek and all other wastewater collection and treatment facilities are operating in a responsible manner that protects citizens and the environment. And that's the end of my statement.
All right, thank you, Ms. Klussman, for your statement today. Let me check in with counsel for the parties to see if there are questions for you.
Thank you.
Questions from CWS?
No questions from Sandler Utilities.
Ms. Holt?
Ms. Klussman, when did you first move to the subdivision?
I moved into the subdivision in August 2020.
Okay. Now, you stated that you have not had sewage back up into your home. However, you've had overflows in your pit. Is that correct?
That's correct, which is on my property in the yard.
Okay. Now, you also stated that you reported it to DEQ. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you also report it to the company, to Sandler Utilities?
No, I did not. I believe I have sent some of those emails to Mr. Franklin, and some of it went to Deborah Massey at EnviroLink.
Okay, so you copied them, but you did not contact Rick. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, but at the time when I've seen these overflows in my pit or my candy cane, one of the first things I'm going to do is call EnviroLink and report that there's something wrong with my service, and for them to come out and check the pit.
Okay.
But I never contacted Sandler directly. I don't even know. I wouldn't even know how to do that because I would want to email them, and I don't think I even have an email for Sandler.
Okay, thank you. Now, you
You're
say
welcome.
what percentage of the property owners are in favor of replacement?
For those who signed, 95% supported upgrading the existing vacuum system.
Okay, so 5%, I guess, would be in favor of upgrading. Of replacing.
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now, you stated that you have no confidence in Mike Myers. Why is that?
Because he has demonstrated over and over again, based upon my service disruptions and his lack of communication, that he's not necessarily interested in providing customer service. If Mr. Myers was interested in developing this business and creating trust in the community, he would have done a better job with customer service and responding to our issues, which he did not do, and he hasn't done, and he only did it because he was forced to, based upon the court order.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
All right, questions for the witness from commissioners? Commissioner McKissick, I see you moving towards your microphone.
Yes, I do have one question. I recall reading in the record that at one point, I believe it was in September 2020, that the subdivision went without service for 17 days. Is that a correct statement that was made in the record? And I know it came in. And what explanation were you provided at that time relating to the inability to provide service or the interruption of service?
So for that one that started the end of September and went into October, if I remember correctly, there were multiple issues that caused that outage. I know one of them was a vacuum pump that failed. I know there will be others that we're going to testify today that could give you better detail in that. But I know that that was one of them, was that there was vacuum pump failures that occurred during that time period.
And it's just one,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
just one quick follow-up. Have you had any other service interruptions that were for that similar periods of time or for such a protracted period of time?
Can you please clarify what you mean in that I've had multiple service interruptions, if that is what you are saying. From the time that I have lived here in the neighborhood, I do know of we've had some April 2021, December in 2020 we had them. I have them for January 2021. I know I can confirm without digging through emails. I have March 2021, April 2021. I know in June of 2021, July 2021. I know from September 2021 through the end of September 2021 through the beginning of December 2021, that was a nightmare. We had repeated outages almost on a weekly basis.
And one final question, how long have you resided in the Eagle Creek subdivision?
I moved in, I have lived in this neighborhood and in this area since August of 2020. So I've only been here about a year and a half.
Thank you. Chair Mitchell, I have no other questions.
Thank you.
All right, checking in. Any additional questions for the witness? All right, hearing none, you may step down. Thank you very much, Ms. Klussman, for your testimony today.
Thank you.
All right, John, would you please unmute the next witness?
Hello, this is Trudy Edler.
All right, good afternoon, Ms. Edler. Let me go ahead and give you get you under oath. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, Ms. Holt, you may take over.
Good afternoon. Could you
Good
please state
afternoon.
your name and spell it for the record?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You were breaking up a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you please state your name and spell your first and last name for the record?
Yes, my name is Gertrude Edler, Gertrude, Edler, Edler, and I live at 139 Greenview Road in Moyock, North Carolina.
And are you a customer of Sandler Utility?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Please go ahead with your statement.
Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to express my concerns regarding the CRSA water and sewer purchase of our community system. And I've lived here for almost 16 years. And up until roughly 2 years ago, when EnviroLink took over the maintenance of our system, we never really had any major issues. Now, I'm not going to rehash all of the catastrophic failures that have occurred, as I know the commissioners have been made aware of them. But going forward, my main concern is that Mr. Myers, EnviroLink, CWS, as the last speaker just spoke to, we really find them completely untrustworthy. We went through a year and a half of consistent failures with barely a response from EnviroLink. People had to release raw sewage into their yards. There were overflows. There were backups. I've had backups in my own home. And because we couldn't get any kind of help from EnviroLink, in fact, when we would call, they would insist they had no idea there were any issues or that techs were already on site when there really weren't. And it only seems recently, since they're trying to purchase this system from Sandler, that they've started communicating on a regular basis with the community. But honestly, their workmanship is no better. This place is crawling with Enviolink employees every day, but there are still failures every single day. If this sale goes through, CWS made it pretty clear their solution is to replace the existing vacuum system with a gravity system. They would have to essentially dig up most of the entire neighborhood. Although they said they'll mitigate any problems that would occur, again, we really don't trust them. Their word means nothing to us. This would be 2 years of our neighborhood being ripped apart, them running pipes through the backyards to the golf course, having to remove fences, possibly damaging existing patios due to the dewatering required. And I really don't believe they would fix any of the damage that occurs. They didn't for the golf course, and I heard this from the owner personally. The damage they did when they ran the pipes for the forced development and how they said they would restore his course, they never did. And they told him that's as much as we're doing. So if this sale goes through, will the commissioners, public utilities, and DEQ add some sort of guardrails for us? Or when our neighborhood is completely destroyed, are we once again going to hear, well, it's a private company and there's not much we can do? We've heard that a lot in the last year. So I thank you for the time to say my piece. And if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony, Ms. Edler. Let me check in with council to see if there are questions for you.
No questions from CWS.
No questions from Sandler Utilities.
All right, Ms. Holt, questions from the public staff?
Yes, just one. Ms. Edler, you said you were a resident for 16 years in the subdivision,
July will be 16 years, yes.
and you had no problems until recently, until the last
I
year?
would say, well, you know, if there were a problem occasionally, it was never catastrophic. And no, I can say personally, up until about 1.5 years to 2 years ago, we had no issues.
All right, Ms. Holt, I believe you said nothing further for the witness. Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, Ms. Edler, thank you again for your testimony this afternoon, and thank you for coming today.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. McCoy, unmute the next witness, please.
My name is Gary Lickfeld.
All right, good afternoon, sir. Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, Ms. Holt, you may proceed.
Good afternoon. Please state and spell your name for the record.
My first name is Gary, G-A-R-Y. Last name is Lickfeld, L-I-C-K, F as in Frank, E-L-D.
Thank you. And what is your address, Mr. Lickfield?
I'm at 220 Greenview Road in Moyock, North Carolina, and I'm a customer of Sandler Utility.
Thank you. Please go ahead with your statement.
I submitted an email with a 4-page written statement and various pictures and attachments, so I'd like to enter that into evidence as well, along with a sewer impact chart that I created on my own that tracked outages starting from January 1st of 2021 up until my last outage of 12/9 of 21. I am in favor of the gravity-based system. It's the one with the least, it's expensive, more expensive up front, and I believe it's a longer, better term solution. Upgrading the vacuum system, what people are not taking into consideration is the cost that it will be to maintain that system and potential more costs when that system expires in 10 years. Gravity will last a lot longer. Another way to look at it is right now we have, over 200 pits in our neighborhood, which is like a mini lift station. With gravity, it would be reduced to 7 lift stations, which is, a lot better than 200. One thing I will say is I'm very disappointed in how long this process has taken and how much we've had to endure with these outages. I've experienced outages not even a year after I moved into my house. I'm the original owner. I moved in 2002. The first experience I had was with Hurricane Isabel when we had raw sewage back up into my house, because I learned at that time the sewer plant did not have a working generator as is per state code. And that's another issue is at a recent virtual town hall meeting, it was stated that there's not a lot of vacuum systems in the state, and regulators don't know, are not familiar with how to enforce that, and it should not take 25 years of enforcement or 25 years to go through this to figure out how to enforce this. I have paid my utility bill on time, every time for the sewer, and where has that money gone? What people are not realizing is, when EnviroLink took over, the plant was non-operational, and that is due to Sandler's neglect of the plant, along with Envirotech that managed the plant at that time, because there are no maintenance records for what they did. I had problems in either it was 2010 or 11, where my pit collapsed into the yard, and that is also an attachment in the email that I sent in. And when I called Sandler to report the issue in Envirotech, and my pit has collapsed in my yard, they said we don't have any money to fix it. And that is unacceptable. They ended up hanging up the phone to me. I ended up having to call DEQ at that time, and they came out to my house, 2 representatives did, the next day, and called Sandler and said, you have to start fixing this or face fines. And it should not take that. You shouldn't have to go to that extent to have a problem fixed. We were recently also presented with other options of a step and a low pressure system, which would involve grinder pumps and pumps, some of which would be attached to our electric at our house. I'm not in favor of that because both of those options have more moving parts, and things break, things get expensive to fix, and like I said, gravity in my opinion, has the least of problems, and it's proven over time that it's effective. And due to the fact that low pressure systems and step systems and vacuum systems do not have a long lifespan, I would ask that some other procedures be put into place so we or another community doesn't have to go through this, because this has been too long, and we should not have to live like this. I have since filed the complaints with the Attorney General's office for fraud against Sandler and gross negligence against the state of DEQ. In 2015, the rate increase, Sandler asked for a rate increase. The state came in, inspected the plant, and had a laundry list of items that need to be fixed, repaired, or replaced. And I found out from another state official that no one ever went back after that rate increase was approved to see what, if anything, was done. So it's years of neglect by Sandler and Envirotech, and EnviroLink was given a huge task of bringing the plant and the system back online. I've talked to a lot of people, technicians and listened to what they had to say. And there was one common theme throughout this whole thing was they kept coming up with ideas and things that they wanted to do, and were saying that Sandler were not provided the money to do it. And it wasn't until recent court proceedings that is being done. And I learned from a county commissioner, that Sandler owes, a huge amount of money to EnviroLink, over $500,000. So again, where is this money going? I also feel that we, as residents, myself included, should not have to pay for whatever the system is going to be. I've paid my utility bills. I shouldn't have to pay more for something that wasn't maintained. In my opinion, the Attorney General should step up and either say to Sandler and say, you can either face 426 charges of fraud for 20 years, or you can replace the system so these people can have peace of mind. I also have an opinion on the petition. I spoke to numerous residents around me, and I never received a chance to sign the petition. No one came to my door. I also think it was skewed to intentionally show a more preponderance towards vacuum upgrade versus gravity, because in their own statement they said they don't have any confidence in Mike Myers, which I do, and it doesn't make sense that if you don't have confidence in him to put a gravity system in, why would you have confidence in him to upgrade a vacuum system? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't hold any water. Also, too, I would ask that whatever new system is installed, that Currituck Water and Sewer be willing to clean out the lines from every residence to the main connection point of their service, due to all the backups, numerous people have had, myself included. I don't think this is a big ask. They've stated that they would be willing to wait 3 years for a rate increase to give time to the Fost and Flora developments to grow and potentially lower our rate increases. We were also told in that town hall meeting that with a step system or a low pressure system, if grinder pumps were to be attached into that system and the electricity be run from our house, that they would uphold and maintain those grinder pumps, even though those would be on our lines from the house to their connection, which is normally what we are responsible for. If that system is chosen, I would ask that something be put in or a contract be drawn up, because if Currituck Water and Sewer is sold at a later date, years down the road, we should not have to maintain those grinder pumps. Those grinder pumps are about $700 to replace when they break. When Currituck Water and Sewer has already stated that they would be willing to take responsibility for the maintenance and replacement of that. And this is, another reason why I have confidence in Mike Myers. He gave people the opportunity to go meet with him, and I was one of them. And I asked a lot of questions, and he was able to put my mind at ease. And the whole community had an opportunity to meet with him, and not many people chose to. So that's on them. And I think everybody needs to step back and look at the mission statements of the Attorney General's office and DEQ, and even the only Utilities Commission's mission statement, because it is all there to protect us, the customers. And from the time of this mass failure until now, I haven't felt very well protected by any entity. And I have doubts in those entities. I like I said, I submitted an email, and I'm sure people have questions about outages, and I'd be more than happy to respond. Because
All
I've
right.
had a total of, since I started tracking the 1st of January, all the way up, my last outage was 12/9/20. It's a total of 57 days without service. And I did have to make a claim via Sandler for damage, which they have paid from sewer backups into my house. And I am thankful for that.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Lickfield. Let me check in with counsel for the public staff. Mr. Lickfield referenced an exhibit that he'd like introduced.
It's spelled F-E-L-D.
Lickfeld?
Yes.
My apologies, sir. Mr. Lickfeld has an exhibit he'd like introduced into the record, Ms. Holt. And so here's what I'd like for you to do. If you would, please file that exhibit following this hearing this afternoon. Label or mark for identification purposes that exhibit is Public Witness Lickfeld Exhibit 1. And we'll include that in the record of this hearing. All right, let me check in with counsel for the parties to see if there are questions for the witness.
No questions from CWS, Chair Mitchell.
All right, thank you, Mr. Finley. Ms.
No
Kimmerai?
Yeah, no questions from Sandler Utilities.
All right, Ms. Holt.
Thank you. And Chair Mitchell, I have sent a copy of Mr. Lickfeld's statement to council.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Lickfeld, how long have you been a resident of the subdivision?
20 years. We were the original owners. I built my house in 2002.
And did you have problems of this magnitude prior to recently and prior to environment taking over?
Yes, the first one was in 2003 with Hurricane Isabel, because I learned when we had raw sewage back up into our master bathtub downstairs, because I learned the plant at that time did not have a operational backup generator, because we were without power from on a Thursday, and I believe power came back on either late Monday or early Tuesday the following week. So we were without power several days, and have had several large rain events over the time. Now, I didn't track over that period of time how many outages we've had. Like I said, that the next major issue I had was in either 2010 or 2011 when I couldn't flush the toilet, and when I went outside, the pit in the yard had collapsed into the ground. It sunk down 3 or 4 feet. And like I said, I called Envirotech and Sandler at that time, and they told me they didn't have any money to fix it. And I said, well, that's crazy. I pay my bills on time, and they ended up hanging up the phone on me. So I had called DEQ, and David May and Alan Clark, who is retired now, responded to my house the next business day and took pictures with them when they had Sandler on the phone and said, you need to fix this or face fines. And they were out there that afternoon, with equipment starting to fix the problem. But it should not take that to get something fixed. I have brought up issues with EnviroLink, and they have responded to all the issues that I have brought up and to try to make things better. You can ask, but he approached the board, our HOA board, to establish communication for the neighborhood, and that communication broke down from the board, not from him. So that was a board issue that caused that problem. And I did, like I said, I did track all the outages and whatever the issue that was told or emailed out is what I checked, or what I created on my chart.
Okay.
And like I said, I've also emailed several pictures, and we should not have to live like this. In November of 21, we had a 42% failure rate. And again, I do not blame EnviroLink for this. I blame Sandler and EnviroTech for not maintaining that system since its inception, because even the state-generated reports in 2015 state that the plant and the system are subpar at best, which means that should have been on their radar and more due diligence from the state. They should have been more involved because they knew the plant was in such bad shape and the system was in such bad shape. And that was why, I filed the complaints with the Attorney General's office against both parties.
Did you state you don't blame EnviroLink? Did anything improve when EnviroLink took over?
Can you repeat that? I could barely hear you.
Did service quality improve, in your opinion, after EnviroLink took over?
Yes, they had the ultimate task of bringing a system back online that was not maintained since its inception. So I think, yes, I think they are way better than EnviroTech ever was, and that's a huge feat to overcome, especially when, talking with various technicians, they would come up with ideas and float them up the chain, and we're being told that Sandler wasn't going to pay for anything, and it didn't come to fruition as more stuff is being added because of the recent court proceedings forcing them to do so.
Okay. You stated that there was a problem with communications from the homeowners association side. What did you mean by that?
Initially, they were putting out emails, and when the big failure went out, and then the emails just abruptly stopped. And when I questioned the board about it, our president, he said they could not get involved with a private sewer company, and that he was sending the emails as a resident. Well, when I went back and checked, every single one of the emails for alerts that he had sent out was from his BOD address. Every time he was on the news or at a Currituck County Commissioner meeting, he addressed himself as the president of the HOA, not resident of the HOA. And it was also told to me that by Mr. Myers that a communication was initially established via the board, and the communication just broke down, and from the board they just stopped sending things out, and I don't know why. As a matter of fact, I didn't learn about the petition results until today. There's nothing posted on our community website. We received no emails for what the petition results were.
Did you receive any notices directly from EnviroLink?
From EnviroLink?
Yes. Notices,
Yeah,
outages?
I can't remember when the emails started, but it's been a while that we do receive emails. In the beginning, they were kind of confusing because they were using a color-coded map, and I just simply asked, if you want me to conserve water, let me know to conserve water, which means not flushing, not sending any gray water down there whatsoever. I have had to learn and find ways to survive to do that, and it's not pleasant. Having to defecate in a bag and having to bail out bathtubs, it's not a way to live. And if we were inmates in a correctional facility having to live like this would be a clear-cut violation of our civil rights, and it should be no different for us. But yes, I've received numerous communications. I highly depend on those emails, especially when I know it's going to rain, because the system gets inundated with water due to pit failures and water intrusion. So I definitely keep an eye on the emails and check them on a regular basis throughout the day. And in the beginning, it's kind of funny because people complained that they weren't receiving information from EnviroLink. And at the meeting in December, that was one of the big complaints. And then somebody brought up the fact that now we're receiving sometimes 3 or 4 emails a day with updates on what's been occurring, and they're complaining about getting too much. So, you know, I don't care if I get 50 emails a day as to what the problems are or what they're occurring. I'd rather know having more information is better than having no information. So I think they've done an outstanding job communicating to us directly and not going through the board.
Let me backtrack a moment. Did you experience similar outage durations before EnviroLink became the operator?
Yes, and I did not track them, and it was largely, heavy impact rains or storms or nor'easters type of events. But I did not track them myself, specifically with dates. Because at that time I didn't think it was necessary because the big failure hadn't happened yet, and I was assuming that people were doing their jobs, regulators in the states were keeping an eye on these things. You shouldn't have to, think about that stuff because it's already there. That's their job. But yes, I did have impacts and sewage backups from 2003 up until I personally started tracking, and until the large-scale outage. I also, I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember what year it was exactly. I actually had a backflow valve installed on my house, and it works to the point where you have to know the system is down because it prevents anything coming back into your house. Any backups in your house, it'll go out the candy cane into the yard. And one of the pictures that that I sent in was from November. I had spent the day painting a room, and if you look at one of the pictures I sent in, you can see the white water on the ground outside of my candy cane. All that came out as a result of me cleaning my paintbrushes and paint trays, and not knowing the system was down. I didn't know the system was down at that time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done all that. But if you don't know the system is down and you send any kind of wastewater down there, you risk the chance of it coming back into your house. Because the first time I experienced that, Envirotech was still operating that. And my wife was upstairs taking a bath. I was downstairs using the toilet, and as soon as I flushed, I knew it was bad because the toilet just rose. And before I could get the words out, to her to yell upstairs, "Don't release the tub," she had already released the tub, and it'll push out some of the water, but since it's not pressurized from the house, it gets to a certain point and then it comes back. So then you will experience backups into your home, mainly underneath your toilet. Because I testified at the 2015 hearing, and I know my house did not have a backflow valve, and one of the owners of Envirotech testified that he was there present when every single house had a backflow valve installed when it was under construction, which I know was not true because mine did not have one. I had one, a separate one installed. And like I said, it works to the point where you have to know the system is down. Because one of the last experiences I had was December 8th and 9th. I sent in photos as well, and I had gotten a warning. When I laid back down after doing feeding my cats, both the toilets in the downstairs bathroom started gurgling really bad. And when I went outside, the candy cane that I have, it's not a full candy cane, and I can pull the top part off of it so I can look down and see the backflow valve itself and clean out if there's any obstructions. And when I pulled that candy cane top part off, it exploded like a volcano because my neighbor had used the bathroom and was taking a shower. He had a ton of backups in his house because we're tied to the same pit, and I didn't have any in my house. It all was in my yard in his house, so the backflow valve worked because I had not yet taken a shower or flushed any toilets or anything. And that's another thing. If Currituck Water and Sewer decide to do a vacuum upgrade or a step system or a low pressure system, I do not want to share a tank with another residence, and I think the tank should be of maximum size per state code per residence. So if the system does go down, we have storage, because right now we have 40 to 45 gallons between two houses, and the average load of laundry is like 30 gallons. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Okay. Now, in 2015, that event you just described, was that during an extreme weather event, like in 2003, if you recall?
Well, 2003 was a named hurricane.
Right.
But I've had events just from heavy rainstorm between 2003 up into 2020. It doesn't have to be a named storm, but because this area here, we either get no rain or we get a ton of rain.
Sure.
And matter of fact, I'm sorry, but if you look real quick, if you look at my impact chart, you can see during the months of July and August, we didn't have month of July. I didn't have any issues because we didn't have any rain for 3.5 weeks, and it was wonderful.
But prior to August 2020, the problems were related to the weather, would you say?
Yes, mainly from my end, yes, with heavy rains or like a nor'easter or a hurricane, yes, or just heavy rainstorm period.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all I have.
Okay.
All right, let me check in and see if there are questions for Mr. Lichtfeld from the commissioners. Commissioners, questions for this witness? All right, sir, I think you are off the hook. No questions from commissioners, so we appreciate your testimony this afternoon and for appearing at the hearing. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. McCoy, unmute the next witness, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Would you please state your name?
Sure, my name is Tammy Green, spelled just like the color.
All right, Ms. Green, do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, Ms. Holt, you may take over, please, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Ms. Green, could you please have your name and address for the record?
Sure, my name is Tammy Green. My address is 186 Greenview Road in Milliox, North Carolina.
And are you a customer of Sandler Utilities?
Yes.
Okay. Please proceed with your statement.
First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. My family moved to Eagle Creek in April of 2014, and for the most part, we really do love our neighborhood. As I'm sure you're aware, and like most of my neighbors, there were some concerns with our system. However, we did not actually experience any major, like, catastrophic events with days of outages until September of 2020. Since then, there have been significant outages heavily impacting our daily lives. Although we don't have an exact number or a verified number by Sandler and Envirolink of the days the system was down, I personally counted until November 3rd of 2021 and counted a number of 69 days that we were without service from September 2020 to November 2021. As a mother, I can tell you that it pains me every day because my 3 children will constantly ask, Mom, can we shower? Can we do laundry? Can we flush the toilet? At 10, 12, and 14, in America, this should not be a concern for them. However, here we are, we find ourselves at the mercy of essentially 3 companies that leaves my family taking turns showering, taking our laundry into another state to a laundromat to wash for a family of 5, washing dishes in the backyard, or even just eating out to avoid having dirty dishes at all. The mere fact that I have to check an email or Facebook daily, sometimes multiple times a day to ensure that we can use our system is actually kind of ridiculous. And as you've heard from other of my members of our community, the trust between our community, Sandler, Envirolink, and Mike Myers is broken. There have been times we've been told that we really don't have a choice and that they are going to put in whatever system they see to be fit. That gives us no reassurance that this will not impact our daily lives, our property, and ultimately the value of our homes. We don't even know how long the system will take to be installed. When the force main was installed outside our neighborhood for the Foss development, with minimal obstacles, our community lost internet several times as well as power, not to mention the water pipe that flooded the ditches that they hit. I have little to no faith that within an established community that the results will be better. With many in our community, including myself, who work from home, this poses a significant impact to working and providing for my family. And yet again, when it comes to communication, it wasn't until the December 20th hearing in Elizabeth City that communication from Envirolink was even improved. I cannot speak for anyone else, but I can say that for my family, this thwarted attempt at transparency appears almost superficial. And statements are made such as frozen valves and mechanical errors are provided as to reasonings for the system outages. The emails sent make it appear that the system is pretty much functioning at its normal baseline. There's been no transparency as to what this shiny new system will cost us. In my conversations with commissioners and attending the meetings with Envirolink itself, there have been no consistent estimated cost to the community. Although it's my understanding that Mike Myers and CWS will not be asking for a rate increase for the initial sale of the system, it has been stated that the rate increase will be requested after the installation has been completed. However, we don't know what that looks like. We've been given numbers of $15 a month to $150 a month. Again, there's no consistency or transparency. It is well understood that our system requires repair. However, to say that a multi-million-dollar replacement with gravity that has high probability of impacting our daily lives during the installation and essentially the resale of our homes at a potentially significant financial cost, or a step system that will then increase our electric bill is far better option than simply repairing and upgrading our current system feels flawed. We've even heard from representatives from Flowback who insinuated the system hasn't failed and can be brought up to a functioning level with minimal impact to our monthly bills and our daily lives. We as a community have already seen a rate increase in 2015 of 15% that provided no return on investment. And in my perspective, further neglect of the system. In conjunction with many of my neighbors, we created, as you heard from Rhonda, 2 petitions and collected signatures showing where our community stands when it comes to upgrading or replacing the system. We did attempt to remain unbiased and non-judgmental and made ourselves readily available when we obtained the 247 signatures, which is 58% of the community. And it indicates that we are more in favor of upgrading our current system instead of having a new system forced upon us. Our community is aware that something needs to happen. However, many of the people I personally spoke to showed concern with the lack of trust the lack of communication, the increased cost of the proposed system, and the major concerns that our homes would be in jeopardy and our daily lives impacted if a gravity system was installed. Many, including myself, also feel as if we're pretty much being held hostage between Sandler and EnviroLink and Currituck Waters and Sewer. Contrary to what we've been told, we do have a voice and we do really want to be heard. These are our homes, our lives, and our investments we have made. When we moved here, we chose to live here instead of Virginia Beach, where my husband is stationed at NAS Oceana. We moved here for the schools and the community. I would have never thought that we would be this close to my husband's retirement, worried about the 8+ years of investment we had made in our homes currently, and wondering if we're even going to be able to sell it. I implore you, please look past the potential generated revenue. Look past the newly established company looking to buy our system and see the 400+ families who have made the biggest investments potentially in their lives in our community. And look at the suffering that we've had to cope with since September of 2020. North Carolina is better than this. Moyoc is better than this. And Eagle Creek is better than this. Our fate is in your hands. And we just ask that you hear our voice when making this decision. And please put some sort of regulations in that prevent any other families or communities from having to endure this. Thank you for letting me speak.
All right, thank you, Ms. Green. Questions for Ms. Green from council. Mr. Finley?
I have no question on Ms. Green. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Kimmerite?
No questions from Sandler.
All right, Ms. Holt?
I have no questions.
All right, Ms. Green, I do have a few questions for you, and then I'll check in with my colleagues to see if they have any
Sure.
questions for you. Thank you for your testimony today. I believe I heard you say that you communicated with commissioners. Did I hear that
Yes.
correctly? And were those
Correct.
utilities commissioners?
No, they were county commissioners.
County commissioners.
I spoke with specifically, oh my gosh, his name, Etheridge, Commissioner Etheridge. I spoke with him over the phone.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Additionally, you've probably said this and maybe said it repeatedly throughout the course of your testimony, but say it one more time for my benefit. What is it that you want us, what action do you want us, the commission, to take?
So it was really outlined in the petition. I really do believe that our current system can be brought up to par. I think with proper oversight, with proper implementation of guidelines, with having Airvac, the company who they came and spoke with us and said, hey, we know what we're doing here. We do these systems all the time. Having them actually come in and manage the system as they've said that they will do may very well benefit us, as opposed to ripping up our entire neighborhood, of trying to put in a new system that may or may not work. We don't even know if it's going to work. At the last meeting, it was insinuated that they weren't even sure with the peat levels and things like that. It wasn't a positive that they would even be able to install this system without expensive dewatering. And that is a huge concern for us.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Green, for that additional explanation. One more question I have for you. With respect to the pending application to transfer ownership of the system to Currituck, do you have an opinion on that request that's being made of us?
I don't think I really have much of an option to have an opinion on it. I feel like it's going to happen regardless. It is literally the only option that has presented itself. So I feel like it's going to happen regardless of what our opinions are of the matter. I would just, request that we not have to, kind of like Gary said, that we don't have to pay for a system that we've already been paying for years and sustained a rate increase for yet again to bring it up to working code that it hasn't been for years.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Green. Let me check in with my colleagues to see if commissioners, any additional questions for this witness. All right, Ms. Green, you're off the hook for this afternoon. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
We appreciate your being here. All right, Mr. McCoy, unmute the next witness, please, sir. All right, do we have a witness on the line? Mr. McCoy, are you able to hear, connect with that witness?
Chair, I tried unmuting and muting a bunch of times. There's no response.
Okay,
This is the last person.
okay, let's try one more time.
Sure.
Ms. Holt, do you know the name of the witness?
I believe his name is Kevin Wetzel.
Mr. Wetzel,
Yeah.
Mr. Wetzel, can you hear me? If you are still connected by way of phone, please speak up. All right, Mr. Wetzel, one last opportunity. If you can hear me, please speak up. All right, Mr. McCoy, I'm going to assume that he is unable to participate. Any
Yes,
reason you
Chair.
think otherwise? Okay,
I muted multiple times.
okay. All right, Mr. McCoy, let me check in with you just to confirm that there are no additional witnesses to participate this afternoon.
They are none.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir. All right, with that, we've come to the end of our hearing this afternoon. We'll resume the hearing at 6:30 this evening. So we'll go off the record now and we'll come back on at 6:30. Thank you very much, everybody.